Mm, All right, we are recording. Hello, this is Sam here from Inclusion Fest and Inclusion Fest YouTube, interviewing Joe, the drummer. Say hi, Joe, to the Inclusion Fest
Oh,
community.
hello, everybody. How's it going today? It's a beautiful day.
All right, Joe. So this interview is about your experience at Inclusion Fest and your experience as a musician, as a drummer. Why don't you start off by telling us how you got into drumming?
Well, that's a long story. I've been drumming since, well, let's see, I was born in 1974. I've been playing drums since 1977. My parents were in a band in the 70s, and they traveled the whole country. And I used to come out and I would do a little drum solo, before the main act. I actually still have one of my little tuxedos that I used to wear in one of those days. So we had to come off the road in 1979 so I can go to kindergarten and go to school, which was an absolute nightmare. Um, let's fast forward until 1993 was when I first started to teach drums. And I basically have been playing, let's see, if I'm 45, then I've been playing like 41 so years. Um,
That's great.
I've never not played the drums.
Hmm. So have you ever been in a band, or are you currently in a band?
Yes, lots of bands along the way. Um, we play. My band is named Willie Jack and the Northern Light. I also manage a jazz group called the Jazz Hands. But I also fill in for a lot of people. I fill in like Grateful Dead style music, and if anybody needs a drummer, they call me usually.
Hmm.
Yes,
So, so you say you teach drums. What got you interested in also teaching, not just playing?
I, my parents and my grandparents have always taught on the side. Like, so
Hmm.
they always taught, and I learned everything basically in house through them.
Hmm.
And also, I taught myself a lot of stuff. I'm autodidact, so I just get the book and find myself a master, and I go to town. Um, so teaching was always part of it. It was just always another stream of being creative, being a musician. Like ever since I could remember, ever since I was a little boy, my parents and grandparents always had students in addition to performing. So
Hmm.
that was the model that I used as well.
Right. And it's a consistent way to pay the bills too.
Indeed, indeed.
Because I know as someone who's in the limelight myself, it's not always easy to make a consistent income just performing.
Absolutely not. It's like, first of all, you have to have a very understanding spouse that will that's into what I do. And of course I do. And yes, it's up and down. And but what has proven to be the most effective is to be really diverse and to be able to do a lot of different things. If you want to stay in the freelance lifestyle, I guess you could call it. You
Right.
know, so so I don't just play in bands, and I don't just teach. I mix audio for theater productions, and I do of course, the drum circle
Hmm.
facilitation, which was what brought me to Inclusion Fest.
Hmm.
Yes.
Are there any? You said you did some theater. Any theater productions that we might know?
Holy smokes, all of them. I've done everything from Spamalot to Cinderella to Beauty and the Beast to Newsies. Uh, I work with a wonderful outfit here in Pottsville called Schuylkill Free Shakespeare, and they
Mm.
bring Shakespeare programming here to Pottsville. Um, yeah, almost too many to mention. Oh, I worked on the We Will Rock You. Uh, it was a play right before the Freddie Mercury movie came out last year.
Hmm.
So yes, lots of opportunities here at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sure the play was much better than the movie.
Indeed, and plus when you're mixing a live band, and you have live singers, the energy is different. The way that people react to the programming is different.
Mm-hmm.
It's always better when it's live.
Yeah, it's way more real. As a musician myself, I definitely appreciate the live sound more than what you get in the studio.
For sure. And
Uh,
everybody had a really good time doing it.
mm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I've done everything from Annie to, let's see, what's the one with the mermaid? Oh, the Little Mermaid.
Oh,
Yes,
You worked on the movie or like a play?
on the theatrical production, like a kids junior type of play that we have
Oh,
here that we have here in Pottsville at the Majestic Theater.
very cool. Um, so why is drumming so important to you? Is it because what your parents taught you, or it's just in tune with who you really are?
Ha! Well, I've never not played the drums. It was always something that was part of my life. When I was flunking out in high school, I always had the drums. When
Mm,
my parents were getting divorced, there was the drums. When there was problems, there was drums. Always, always, always played the drums because it made me feel good. And I have a very dedicated interest into it because of that. No
mm,
matter what was going on in my life, no matter what was going wrong or right, I
mm,
always had drumming. It always made me feel great, and I didn't know why until a few years ago. Um, until I started to study the art of drum circle facilitation, and
mhm,
I found out all the amazing things that happens to our brain from brain scans when they were performing the drumming and doing the research and gaining evidence as to why this makes us feel good. So once I started to understand why, I just wanted to do it even more in in a bigger direction. Um, Everybody has challenges in their life. Everybody's fighting a battle that you don't know about. Just because someone might have mild autism doesn't mean that they don't experience the symptoms of it on a regular basis. Just because someone might be bipolar or have depression, and you see them, and you might see me right now, and I'm doing great, but there's a lot of work that goes into it, as I'm sure you know. It's a constant battle,
a constant
and
rhythm.
the protocol that I used before I even knew what I was doing was drumming. And it
Mhm,
always brought me back to center. It always brought me back from a meltdown. It always brought me back from a mood swing or whatever was happening at the moment.
mhm.
Yes,
Yeah. Uh, do, do you work with just neurotypical kids, or have you all worked exclusively in special needs kids, like kids with autism?
we work with everybody. Of course, our
Mm,
specialty is the kids who are falling through the cracks. Okay,
mhm,
I myself was a kid who fell through the cracks, and so I work in an after-school Achieve program. It's a federally funded program for kids after school, and we have lots of neurodiversity, and we welcome it. We have regular kids too. Everybody is included, because the main idea, the main objective, especially with school age children, is to build some community. Okay,
mhm,
and to let them know that people are listening, and to let the youngsters know that there's another way out of stress and
mhm.
anxiety. Okay, and there's a very productive way out.
Yeah,
Um,
music definitely is that. It's and especially drum circles, which is the oldest form of community and communication for all humans, where you speak the same language or not.
Indeed, and I was just at a middle school yesterday, and I mean, sometimes the kids don't know what to expect, and then they come in, and within 5 minutes, they're having a good time. Everyone's talking. There's social interaction.
Mhm,
One of the games that I play with them is it's called the rhythm wave. Okay, and it's a drum roll, real fast, blah, 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 and everybody gets a turn to drum roll, and you can go as long as you want. But the way that you pass it is you have to make eye contact with the guy to you, with the person to the left. And, so we make sure that we get eye contact. We make sure that everybody's shaking hands and saying hello. That's a huge part of it. It's
mhm,
not just about the playing. It's not just about the drums. It's totally not about learning precise West African rhythms at all.
mhm,
I would rather take a group full of 30 people that have never played the drums before and come out feeling great because they did something they never thought they can do. So you can facilitate human potential through drum circles, because a lot of times people say to me, Joe, I'm not a drummer, I can't do this. And I say,
mhm,
wait a minute, you just spoke to me. Inside of your language exists rhythms and syllables that you can turn in to millions of drum beats just from your speech. Just and if we slow down, we take our time and we listen, we can create drum beats out of thin air, out of nothing. And that's real. That's what it's really about, is to create our own in the moment music together. You know.
Yeah, your philosophy reminds me of Mickey Hart a lot. Like I know he's all
Ha.
into that.
Well, it's funny you should say that. It's the whole reason I went into this direction. In about 1998, I was looking for input. Any books on the drums that I could find, I was looking for, and surprisingly, there's none. I mean, other than instruction books. And I found this book, Mickey Hart's "Drumming at the Edge of Magic," and it was a complete paradigm shift. It was a complete 180 turn. Because at that point, I was into the Dead, and I was always into jazz music and American improvisational music. But when I read Mickey Hart's book, it changed everything, and it put me on the trajectory of a path that I'm still on today. I don't know where I would be without that book. Sometimes I just read it. Sometimes I'll just pick a page and just read it. Sometimes I'll read the page from the bottom to the top, just because I like to have the stories rattle around in my brain. It's a very important book, and I highly suggest it to anyone.
Yeah, I think I read that book at one point because I read everything Grateful Dead related. Yeah, just being in tune with the universe, and I think that's what you're all about, is helping people get in tune with themselves and the world around them, no matter how chaotic their lives may feel.
Absolutely. And like I said, this is what I've been doing to keep it cool for 40 some years. It's only until recently I figured out a way to share it with people in a productive way.
Yeah.
As you know, as everybody knows, people, like I said before, people have challenges. Sometimes we get involved and we drink too much, or sometimes we get involved and we're doing too much party.
Right.
These types of things are healthful distractions for people that people can do, and before they grab a drug and a drink.
Yeah, I feel that way. I grab my guitar instead of a drug or a drink. That's my rhythm. So you're talking about, that brings us to Inclusion Fest. What got you involved with Inclusion Fest and bringing your message to the festival?
One person particularly, his name is Uncle Joe Domkowski. I don't know if you know Uncle Joe.
I don't know Uncle Joe yet.
Uncle Joe is the MC at one of our festivals. Whoops. He's a really close friend of ours from the Pennsylvania music scene. And he sent me a message, and he's like, "Joe, there's this really awesome thing happening called Inclusion Fest. We got to hook you up with the people who are putting it on. Your drum circles thing it's like made for it up there." And so Joe got me in touch, I think, with Leah, and then we went back and forth for a few months. And the first year I did it, it was great. Second year I did it, it was great. And hopefully we'll keep on coming back. Hopefully it'll be an established thing. I believe that it will, because there's a lot of great people there. A lot of people coming together to do a great thing for people, and that's always a good sign. When people are of service to other people, that's always a good sign. I myself, like when I go to Inclusion Fest, I don't have to put earplugs in the minute I get out. Because usually when I go to a festival, it's so loud, and I have sound sensitivity, believe it or not. I'm running for my earplugs. When I get out of the Jeep at Inclusion Fest, it's like, oh my God, I can actually talk to somebody without being assaulted by music, and a lot of times I'm close to the stage. So I have to have the earplugs in. The whole time is earplugs. But when I show up at an Inclusion Fest, it's a very welcome change. Oh, there's a car coming by here. Hold on. It's a lovely day. I'm out on the porch.
Right.
That's the amazing thing about inclusion, is it's designed for people to relax and to not have to feel like they have to be a certain way, or behave a certain way. They have everything worked out for people, and I think it's the greatest thing ever, and I wish it to continue. I wish them all the best.
Yeah, as someone who's on the spectrum myself, and has gone to many music festivals, it reminds me a lot of like the ideal Grateful Dead scene. Like everyone's helping out everybody, but it's definitely more family centered. Like, did you have any like particularly like something that stood out to you in Inclusion Fest apart from the fact you were able to have conversations with people? Like, was there like a moment in a drum circle that really stood out to you this year?
There's always those little moments, and as a facilitator, I have to always be checking in with myself to make sure that I'm of service. And so when I see nonverbal folks come over and they can express themselves on the drums. Oh, hold on, that's my wife. Oh, yeah, it was my wife was calling in. I'll call her back. When I find nonverbal folks and they come to the drum circle and they then can express themselves on the drums non-verbally, that's a moment. Okay. When we have folks that are not able to like maybe hold a regular conversation like we can, we can have a conversation on the drums together as a group, and to know that those people are then now supported in that group, that's really what it's all about. It was really good this year. I went out. We did 2 drum circles this year, and they were both very successful.
Yeah, I sat in on one of them, and it definitely you could definitely feel. I could feel it last year. I could definitely feel it this year. Connection with everyone, and as the drums kept going, how just the energy of the circle just kept getting bigger and bigger, and we all got more connected.
I mean, think about what happens there. I mean, we have electricity in our brains. Okay, we think about this idea. So we think the idea, and then we can turn it into something physical on the drums. And you don't need musical notation to do that, per se. Like, I don't have any, like, we don't read any music when we play. I teach everything by rote, by my voice. And so it's amazing stuff when people can express themselves like that. Never knew that they could, in a safe place, in a nurturing environment, in an environment where people can be free of judgment. That's really important, because as a facilitator, it's not so much about playing, but about creating the condition that people are walking into, so they know what to expect, they know what we're doing, they know how we're doing it, and they know why. And not to mention, everything I do is evidence-based and researched. Like I said in the beginning, like, I've always felt good playing the drums, never knew why. So finding research that supports the way I was feeling was a huge moment. I mean, you can imagine that just like all the pieces fit together, it's like a Fibonacci sequence. It all fit together,
Like the notes of a song, basically.
Yes, it was just like, okay, in the what's the Star Wars movie, the first one with Rey? What was that one called?
The Force Awakens.
The Force Awakens. Now I forgot what I was gonna say. It'll come back.
All right, let's circle around. All right. Let's see what else to talk about. How can people get in contact with you for more drum circles?
Well, right now I mostly do drum circles like in schools. I go to dementia units. I'll be going to a dementia unit tomorrow. I go to nursing homes, assisted living facilities. The best way is to reach out on Facebook. It just seems to be like the Facebook has taken over as the de facto means of communication. I have a personal website, and I have a musician website.
That's great. I'll definitely, when I post this on on YouTube, I'll get those links so I can post it below so people can find you.
Sure.
Is there anything you want to say to the inclusion community before I let you go?
I just want to say, keep on doing what you're doing. We appreciate it. We understand how hard it is, and we are grateful to you folks for doing what you do. Thank you.
All right, Joe. Thank you for taking your time. I will let you know when this gets posted, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.
I hope you have an enjoyable Wednesday as well. Thank you very much.
All right. Talk to you later, sir.
All right, brother. We'll see you.
See ya.